Hello everybody, December48 here. Welcome back to another NCIS Saturday. We're joining in Season 2. And I have to say, this season is not quite on the same level as Season 1. Season 1 had just more epic feels. More episodes that kind of felt like they had more weight to them, to the characters. Now, that doesn't mean that there weren't some in this season, because there definitely were. You also just get, in general, less character development in a Season 2, because Season 1 is building all the characters essentially from scratch. I mean, they made a cameo appearance in Jag, but otherwise it's building the core of the cast from scratch. This season really advances Jimmy Palmer and McGee. But otherwise, Tony, Kate, Gibbs, Ducky, Abby, their characters were already pretty well established. The banter between them grew and got better. But I wouldn't say there was too much change in their characters. Not that there necessarily needs to be. But when you're having character development in Season 1 and a little less in Season 2, it gives that emotion and that feel to that season. This Season 2 really was pretty much cookie cutter for a very long time. It's a cop show. There's going to be a lot of cookie cutter. That's not necessarily an issue. I enjoy the cookie cut of NCIS, right? That's why this series is a thing. I find it to be a very fun show, and I think it does it well with the balance of seriousness and including comedic relief. I think as a cop show, it does a very good job of that, especially when you balance the fact that it's also always military cases. So you're not really mocking victims in any sense. But this season ends with probably two of the most important seasons within NCIS, episodes within NCIS. The second to last episode is, I think, one of the best ever. I actually saw a recent post on their Instagram about that episode being one of the top 10 most iconic episodes in NCIS, and I'd have to agree, it was a great episode. And the episode that ends the season is probably the most important one, especially for cast at this point in the show. It includes our first main character death, which for a while I thought wasn't going to come in this season because there was no really development into it. It just kind of appeared. And just kind of happened pretty quick, all in one episode, really, because it follows the asbestos, the bubonic plague episode, where there's no true outside threat, or I guess international threat is a better word. But I did enjoy the season. I don't want the criticisms of it compared to the first one to make it seem like I did not enjoy the season. Still a fun season, and I think Season 3, knowing how Season 2 ends, launches probably one of the most fun story arcs in NCIS ever. So that is exciting to get to. Let's get into our season. We start with Episode 1, See No Evil. A Navy captain's wife and daughter are captured. He works in the Pentagon. The kidnapper is captured, and the family is reunited. $2 million is sent through which was the ransom, is sent through China, Zurich, and back to Washington, D.C. The captured had hired the kidnapper to kidnap his own family. McGee is promoted to full field agent, which is very cool. Launch into Season 2 with McGee as a full member of the team. I am curious. It's one of those things that I'm always curious about in television. When you get somebody in Season 1 who's a part-time cast member and then they grow into a full-time cast member in Season 2, was the intention of the show always for him to be full-time? Or was he kind of going to be like Fornell, bouncing in and out, back and forth from Norfolk? Because that always intrigues me, especially in a show like NCIS with McGee, who is still active with the show 20 years later. Episode 2, The Good Wives Club. A body is found in a backyard by a construction crew on a military base in a non-occupied housing area. The victim was a prisoner in a secret bunker, and there is a second living victim somewhere else. The base chaplain is the suspect, and he kills himself when NCIS comes to arrest him. The final victim is still out there, and there are 2 others before the first one that they found. DiNozzo finds the victim alive, but she had Stockholm Syndrome and knocks out Tony. Kate and Gibbs stop her from killing herself. Episode 3, Vanished. A marine helicopter, made crop circles on a farm. Pilot and co-pilot roommates are missing. Kate and Tony find one in their apartment. The other is still missing. Arson cabin fire with burned flesh on door handle. A burned body is found near that cabin, and the body is missing Marine's brother. The dead dude's girlfriend is pregnant. Her dad killed him, and Marine wants revenge. Marine is found and is stopped from carrying through the revenge as the person has already been captured. Episode 4, Lieutenant Jane Doe. Unidentified naval woman found by 2 seamen off base starting their leave. Ducky recognizes a call sign left on the victim's neck. She's not military, just dressed up after being raped and murdered. The serial killer has resurfaced after a decade, trident carved into the neck. Ducky has worked this before. The death 10 years earlier is the only Jane Doe Ducky has never identified. The current victim is identified, and it is a copycat murderer, stealing the OG murderer's DNA from evidence and planted it. Her lesbian lover and daughter of Her lesbian lover and daughter of original and dead NCIS investigator, as well as a friend of McGee, in his last post in Norfolk, is the murderer of the new victim. The OG victim is still never identified, and Ducky had been carrying around her cremated body for 10 years and finally gives it to a funeral home. Crematorium? That's the word for it. So that she can be laid to rest. Episode 5, The Boneyard. Person tied up with a skeleton in a plane bomb zone. Abby hacked after IDing the body. FBI is the hacker. Victim is FBI undercover agent. Fornell thinks there is a mole in FBI, and the FBI thinks it's him. Fornell framed with coke. This is a mafia dumping ground. Fornell met with mafia boss the day he pulled surveillance, and Fornell hangs himself in his prison cell. The mafia kills the mole, and the mafia's son is arrested. Fornell had faked his death. Episode 6, Terminal Leave. Navy lieutenant's car is bombed. She is not in the car at the time. FBI is handling the investigation. NCIS is handling protection. Suspected Al-Qaeda team. Another attack fails because Tony noticed second attack was a different person, amateur. Lieutenant kills the neighbor trying to kill her because of the affair she had with the lieutenant's husband. Episode 7, Call of Silence. Medal of Honor recipient brings a pistol to Gibbs he used to kill a Marine. Gibbs helped bring back his memories of his fight on Iwo Jima. He had to kill his injured friend who would have exposed his squad's position. Episode 8, Heartbreak. Hospital equipment and patient bursts into flames. Lead suspect dies by officer-assisted suicide. Kate shot him when he pulled the weapon on Gibbs. He has alibi and can't be the killer. Kate is shaken up. Doctor failed her surgery, so she blew him up to cover her failure. Episode 9, Forced Entry. Woman shoots home intruder. Man tells Kate he was invited over. The pair had explicit conversations over the internet, but the woman's email had been hacked. She wasn't sending the emails. The hacker is found, murdered with his eyes cut out. Hacker killed during intercourse. Hacker eyes found in woman's kitchen. Guy's supposed sister is actually his partner. They are serial rapists and murderers from across the country. Episode 10, Chained. Prisoners escape when their transport driver has a medical episode. NCIS staged the escape, and Tony is one of the two prisoners. They are cuffed together. The prisoner killed his partner, escaping with Tony. Tony was asleep during the murder. Tony kills the prisoner in self-defense. The buyer is arrested, and the art is recovered. Episode 11, Black Water. Car wash into body of water with quick decay, it seems. Man already knocked out. Car recovered 2 years later. Car had been shot. One of two suspects shot at while with Tony and Gibbs by the same weapon. Gun is found in brother's house with a PI. He died in a car accident. The PI had framed the brother for murder to collect a reward. There are some episodes that end, I think, like a minute too soon. It feels like sometimes they've like solved it, and then it's like they don't show you the arrest sometimes, or the like final piece. It's just assumed, and that to me is kind of amusing in a cop show. Like, that's a little funny. Episode 12, Doppelganger. A petty officer is attacked while being cold called to change phone service. A big fight, lots of blood. No body, though. Blood splatter and fight was staged. He faked his death. He made a code with a naval hospital, getting him large amounts of drugs for free. The petty officer found dead in ravine, execution style. He had a partner in the Navy, likely the killer. Gibbs went on a date with the killer before they realized. Episode 13, The Meat Puzzle. Ducky knows one of the meat puzzle victims he and Palmer have been working on since probably season 1. I don't remember specifically when these popped up. I think it was the last episode of season 1 they got the first barrel. DA and Judge are two of the victims. Ducky performed an autopsy and testified on a murder case, putting someone away for 8 years, but that person died 1 year ago. Third victim is jury foreman on the case. Another body in a barrel sent to Ducky's house. Baltimore PD officer who investigated the case. Ducky taken while Kate was guarding him, and his mom. Family faked the death of the arrested one. Pulled all of his teeth, put it in a dead body. Mom and son are caught. They save Ducky. Son kills himself, not wanting to return to prison. Episode 14, Witness. Neighbor films a murder. Her recording started after the attack, but she claims a sailor was murdered. Sailor is later found dead in a porta potty. Gibbs is testing McGee with this case. Witness is also murdered. McGee hit on the head by an attacker, and McGee solves it. The building manager had committed the murders. And he was pretty shaken up by this one because he kind of listened to her, believed her a lot, and he ends up writing a note to her parents about the whole case. Episode 15, Caught on Tape. I find it funny that they do two recorded ones back to back. They don't really touch on video, like handheld video stuff much, as it's early 2000s where you're using a camcorder instead of your cell phone. So I find it funny that they use it in back-to-back episodes. A man dies filming landscape at a state park. There's a baseball bat splintered into his head. Shootout with the killer, and Gibbs blows up his trailer, which is a fairly successful way of stopping the guy from shooting back. Episode 16, Pop Life. Guy wakes up with his girlfriend dead in the bed. Cops are at his door, and he's been set up. He brought home someone other than the petty officer that was dead next to him. She died by meth, then stabbed after. Nightclub owner is the lead suspect. One of his girls also killed after being interrogated by Gibbs. Bodyguard kills boss before he could kill the victim's sister. She had murdered her own sister. Episode 17, An Eye for an Eye. A pair of eyes are delivered to a woman in the mail. It wasn't meant for her, it was meant for her neighbor, who is a male petty officer. The eyes were sent from Paraguay to the petty officer, who then kills himself/herself, as we get another early 2000s take on trans life. The eye victim is identified, known by petty officer and one of his professors. Kate and Tony head to Paraguay. Professor's wife's eyes. She is 17. He is well above that. They'd been dating for 3 years. Professor caught by Tony and Kate trying to kill his actual wife. He had hired someone to kill her, but they killed her younger sister instead. So the eyes were her sisters. The professor is released and then killed by a U.S. agency, who Gibbs basically blackmailed that he would expose Ari within Al-Qaeda if they didn't get rid of the professor. Basically. He was saying arrest. They did that instead, which I find very interesting that was their response. But it works. Episode 18, Bikini Wax. Navy woman is killed before being a contestant in a bikini competition. She is drowned in the toilet she was vomiting in. She was in early stage of pregnancy. The victim was impregnated by her friend's fiance, and the friend is the killer after finding out about the cheating. Episode 19, Conspiracy Theory. Nightmare or a hallucination goes on with a guy in full military gear and a knife telling this lady that her fiance didn't die. She suffers from psychosis, and her psychologist tells Gibbs everything is fine. She goes to a mental hospital, and she calls Gibbs for help, but is found hung when they arrive. She was suffocated, then hung to make it look like a suicide. Gibbs and Kate shot at while reinvestigating the crime scene. The victim had been having an affair with her CO, and they were both married. 2 patients worked together to kill her and collect money that the CO had been taking in kickbacks. Episode 20, Red Cell. Dead Marine found during frat hazing ritual. Victim's best friend, another Marine, is missing, and both had gotten emails saying they would die. The best friend also found murdered. Their CO killed them because they found out he was forcing another student to have sex with him. Gibbs was in a brutal fight with him and eventually won that duel. Episode 21, Hometown Hero. A skeleton found by a friend in a dead man's storage unit. He died in Iraq. Skeleton went missing 2 years ago. The dead Marine and friend went to high school with the skeleton and had been missing for 2 years. The skeleton had been strangled. The friend was murdered at her home. Or suicide. I don't remember if they ever... I think they ended up confirming suicide. Skeleton wrapped in a product 4 months old. Yes, this is where the confirmed suicide happens. Skeleton was killed by the stepdad, and he framed the Marine. He was sexual with the friend. He killed his stepdaughter to keep his secret. Episode 22, Swag. Tony opens mail, and when it opens, it releases a white powder, which he inhales some of. Tony and Kate are in hospital isolation, while Gibbs and McGee are in autopsy isolation, waiting on blood tests. Only Tony is infected with a bubonic plague variant called pneumonic plague. A mother committed the attack because she thinks NCIS is covering up who raped her daughter, but the rape never happened. Tony survives. This is easily the best episode up to date. A huge threat on a main character, and pretty intense storyline outside of the actual virus as well. So surely the season finale is going to be nice and calm for us. Obviously. Episode 23, Twilight. A fake cop kills a military man and his friend, who is also in the military, in a traffic stop. Has car and uniform and everything, looks full cop. The driver's hands were taken. Tony opens the trunk, which was detonated. Both victims are military pilots. Ari is back. Al-Qaeda used the hands to steal a drone and load it with explosives. The cell is shut down, the drone is stopped, and Ari snipes Kate in the head. She makes it through 2 seasons, and that's just the end of the season, is she's dead. We almost lose Tony in episode 22 in the penultimate episode of the season, and then we lose Kate in the season finale. An intense way to end season 2, and I can't wait to get into season 3. Like I've said already, I think overall this season was slightly down from season 1, but it ends significantly better. These 2 episodes are 2 of the best episodes ever, let alone within the first 2 seasons. Let me know your thoughts on NCIS in general, or the first 2 seasons, in the comments down below. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.